Let's start devoting some attention to a very, very useful form of guard passing, particularly when you're working against a high-level guard with an athletic, flexible opponent, difficult to pass by the regular methods. This is hand block passing. The best way to teach this pass is in terms of what a skilled guard player working against you has to do in order to retain his guard. Plus, let's take a position fairly close to the camera, head this way, feet this way. Okay, if I've gotten an angle on my training partner, the main things he does to prevent me passing his guard is he forms an elbow-knee connection on the near side. He creates a recovery leg on the far side. He has frames in place like so. What this does is it stops me on the elbow and knee and creates a situation where the high leg can come over and realign his body with mine and recover guard. That's the eternal pattern that you'll be fighting against, okay? Now, what kinds of things would make it difficult for my opponent to do this? Well, if I were to put a physical block in here, when he goes to bring his knee up, it would stop him from forming a satisfactory elbow-knee connection. So a block here would be something highly effective for shutting down his ability to put us back in guard. Another thing, when Placido puts frames up here, if I get lower than his recovery leg, the best way for him to put me back in guard is to move his head away from me. And then he can realign and put me back in guard. So two of the absolute most important body movements for guard retention are bringing elbow and knee together on the near side and then moving his head away from me to realign his body. Remember, guys, what I want is to be perpendicular to my opponent to complete a pass. What he wants is alignment, and moving the head away is the basic way to do that. So what if I were to do something in terms of putting a block in here and then controlling his head? If Placido were to put me back in guard now, the only way he could do it is by using the high leg. Then he could do it. But what if I put my head down low? Now when he goes to put me back in guard, he can't use the high leg because of my head position. If he tries to push his head away from me to realign, my left hand makes it very difficult. And if he tries to bring his right knee in, my right hand makes it very difficult. Good. Do you see what's happening here? Three simple ideas: blocking the hip, immobilizing the head, and using my head low shuts down three of the most important body movements for an opponent to retain guard. Here's the good news for you. The hand block method does all three very, very easily. Once you understand what your opponent has to do to put you back in guard, you can shut down his movements. That's when you start passing the toughest guards in the world. Because remember, the more skilled your opponent, the more he's going to rely on these fundamental body movements to retain guard. The more athletic, flexible opponents are going to be able to exploit this against you. But if you just employ these three simple ideas, block the hip, immobilize the head, and shut out the recovery leg with your head position, when he goes to put us back in guard now, it's going to be hell for him. Those simple ideas are the basis of the hand block guard pass. And we're going to go on to the next section to show how we're going to use this in a competitive sparring situation. We just looked at the conceptual ideas behind the hand block guard pass. Now it's time to get into the concrete applications of it. Let's look now how we're going to use it in a competitive sparring or competition situation. It's a very, very useful way of passing against skilled opponents who have the kind of athletic, flexible body combined with good knowledge of how to move to retain guard. This is a great way to shut them down. Okay, we're in front of a training partner. He's in a good defensive guard position, just like so. We come out and we get to an angle on our training partner like so. Once I start to form an initial angle, what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to put my hand inside my training partner's hip. My second hand is going to catch my training partner right here. We're going to use his trap muscle as a kind of handle. I'm going to put my head into his stomach. When Placido goes to put me back in guard, I'm going to run from here to north-south. When he goes to follow me, it's hard because I'm controlling his head. My hand goes from here to here. I go from wrist to elbow. My second hand punches into the hip. When he goes to put me back in guard, we just settle right into a good pin. Okay, it looks so simple, and really it is simple. Okay, it's one of the more effective methods of taking a very, very tough guard and getting those simple precepts of blocking the hip, blocking the head, and blocking the far leg with your head. 3 simple ideas that can all be done simultaneously. This works really, really well anytime you can get a good initial angle on an opponent. So, Pastor Ryan is going to run this through from a situation where we start off. As always, contact, angle on our training partner, and then I see my opportunity. I go in, he goes to put me back in guard. Let's go, Pastor. Then we settle down, coming in aggressively like so. The demeanor I want you to have when you go for this one, there has to be a little bit of physical aggression. It's a physical method of guard passing. You've got to go in there, go in with your head, go in with your hands. Just think about 3 targets: hip, head, your head inside his hip. 3 things, all done at roughly the same time. You're going to pass a lot of people's guards. So here we are starting off in front of our training partner. The first thing I need is angle. As we come out here to an angle, we're working in position. And look how we just go straight in like so. She fights to put us back in guard. We just work our way in with your head pushing into his hip and lock around his head and shoulders. Seen from different angles. You start off, there's the initial movement, which creates a little bit of angle on our training partner. Now as we come in, we block, run. As he goes to put us back in guard, it's so difficult. Okay, we just one very important transition. I should emphasize this. It's an important one. When you first go in, have your shoulders facing the camera, please. When you first go in, you block the hip. That's pretty easy. Normally with a hand. I've got a bad wrist, so I'm blocking with a fist, but you'd normally go in with a hand. You go in here with your hand. You go in here with your head. Watch my left elbow. When I come up to north-south, my elbow takes over. I go from wrist to elbow. So when Placido goes to put me back in guard, it's my elbow controlling him. Don't just stay here. If he's very physical and pushes, your hand can come off, but your elbow won't. So you reach with the hand and solidify with the elbow. Starting off, angle. We're coming down here. We've got everything we need, and then we just enter right in here. So we tighten everything up, and we come into a good passing position. Okay, one more time. Training partner in front of us. Everything starts with an initial angle. As we come up to that angle, look how we just punch right into place. Now we're going to fight for guard position. Let's go, Pastor. It's so hard because you're so close to the guy. There's very little space for his knees to come in. When he tries to bring knee and elbow together, your hand's an impediment in the way. When he tries to push his head away from you, your elbow's controlling it. When he tries to throw the leg over the top and recover, your head is blocking it. It's just a very hard thing for your opponent to deal with, and there's not much time for him to do it. Once you make that first contact, he's got 1 or 2 seconds to do something. One of the big goals of this video is to get you very good at guard passing in the least amount of time against very tough opponents. Okay, in sparring situations, you have to anticipate your opponent's ability to recover guard. You're going to be trying to pass, they're going to be doing everything they can to stop you. They're going to be trying to retain guard versus your passing. So we have to take into account always the anticipated recovery methods. The good news is there's only so many ways your opponent can move his body in order to recover guard. Once you understand what they are, you can shut them down. One of the most important concepts will always be the idea of a recovery leg. Whenever we get to a passing position, whether it be side or north-south, your opponent will always be looking to throw a leg up and recover. And if he can do so, he can realign his body and put you back in guard. This is something you'll be fighting against your entire time in jiu-jitsu. Every time you go to pass, he's going to be looking to recover. When we use the hand block, we typically end up in kind of north-south positions. That's the standard result. So as we start off in here and we go in and we make our initial contact, once we come down here, by the time we go in, your opponent's going to be pushing and bringing legs back in. The second we see that, we go straight to our reverse grip. Once we get that reverse grip, it's always about our body weight coming forward. It's always about us turning the corner and getting control of our training partner's head. It's always about us putting our head all the way up here next to our training partner. So when he goes to bench press us off, it's really, really difficult. If I'm hanging back here somewhere, that's when they can push you off and post and frame and bench press you away. But when my head is up here past the line of the chest, when he goes to push us off now, it's so difficult. If I put my knees on the ground, he doesn't feel my weight, he can move. But when my knees are off the floor, when he goes to push us away, it's so difficult, okay? So anytime we hit that hand block, we end up in north-south, you know he's going to throw a recovery leg in, especially if he's young, flexible, tough, athletic guy, doesn't give up easily. There's always going to be that leg coming over. That's when we go in with our reverse scoop, turn the corner. So once again, training partner starts in front of us. We do a good job of finding that initial angle. As we work out in here, we go into our hand block. He runs to north-south, and he throws the leg up and over and catches us. We immediately go across. We immediately capture our training partner at the head and shoulders. He tries to put us back in guard from here. Man, it won't be easy. You're in the perfect position now to go in and get your pass. Now, we've been looking at this hand block method of passing a tough opponent's guard. Here's a nice variation. You don't use this as often as the primary variation, but it's a good one to have up your sleeve in cases where you cannot block the hip adequately. Plus, it'll take a supine position and form an angle like so. Okay. Very often, an opponent will bring legs in and his knee will start to come in to recover. In these situations, a very good antidote to this recovery is for us to control the ankle with a reverse grip. We take thumb and forefingers, plus you're going to bring your knee in, and you can easily shut it out. Okay, it's a very, very strong grip, and it takes advantage of that fundamental physiological fact that we always talk about when we're passing guard, the idea that the leg is very strong at pushing, but very weak at pulling. So when it pulls up here, my hand can easily remove it. Okay, at the very least, I can hold it in place and then walk away from the knee, at the very least. But whenever we see a knee coming in, one of the best things we can get into the habit of is pulling it out and then going in to solidify a pass. And we can use this with the hands method of passing. What we're going to do is we're going to form an initial angle on a training partner. We're going to come out on our man just like so, and then from here, instead of me putting my hand here as a blocker on the floor, I'm going to put it here on my training partner's bottom ankle. Then my head position comes down, my hand comes up just like we talked about previously, and we run into our training partner like so. As Parsley goes to put me back in guard, it's incredibly difficult. Then we just release, we put our hand in. As Parsley goes to put me back in guard, we just focus on getting our elbow around his head, my other hand in here is a blocker, and now it's so hard for him to recover. Just as a useful variation whenever you can't get your hand directly to the floor. So once again, we start off in front of our training partner, and we do a good job of finding an initial angle. As we play the position, we're going to reposition our hand just down here like so. I catch Pasito at the trap, and I put my hand in just like this. As he goes to put us back in guard now, it's so damn difficult. And then from here, the handle places, and we settle into a good pass. It's a nice variation of the move, which works extremely well. Now, we've been looking a lot at Toreando type passes to get past our opponent's legs. Now let's look at another closely related pass, the high leg pass. This is a time-honored and very useful method of working. It has some advantages over a Toreando pass. Toreando passing really requires a lot of angular change. So when his legs are up here, we always want to start turning our opponent off and getting angle on the mat. Now, high leg passing is a little bit different. It starts without angle, just like so. All we need is 1 foot inside his legs and 1 foot outside his legs. The good news is it's usually pretty easy to create that set of conditions. What we do is just like a Toreando pass, we come out, we get a hold of our training partner, and we give a little pull in the opposite direction of a Toreando. And we end up right here in this position. Now our two hands are going to go into a position right here on our training partner's hip and knee. I'm going to step my foot in, and I'm going to just take my other leg all the way up high. So when he tries to connect to my leg, it's very, very difficult. Then we take our hand and we just clear our training partner's leg out of the way, and then we step our knee in. We form an elbow-knee connection. And then from this position, as he puts up his defensive frames, our knee beats his legs, and we walk in towards our training partner to a finishing position. So once again, training partner's here in front of us. I've got to create a situation where one of my feet is between his feet and one is on the outside. That's usually pretty easy. We come in, just go right here. Now our two hands go into hip and knee pose, and then as he tries to connect to us, we just take his legs out of the way. He can't make connection because your leg is too high up. Now from here, when he tries to recover, it's just about our head coming down He pushes us away, and we come down with our hands scissored around our training partner's oblique muscles. You get a very strong passing position. So you normally enter with the knee and then finish with the head. Let's have a look at this again from a different angle. We line up with our training partner. We come out and create a situation where my foot is inside. Now we quickly get our hands in together. He wants to make contact with our leg. So we deny that by taking our leg up high and then passing his leg away. Now from here, as he goes to recover, you start with the knee-elbow connection, the head comes down. So when he goes to bench press us, you're so close to his body that it's very, very difficult. And then from here, we just walk everything down to the mat. Again. What he wants is some kind of connection to my right leg. So we sell him the idea that that's what's happening. Then we just step in and clear his legs out of the way. But your leg is not there because you took it up high away from him. Now he's going to put hands on you and try and push you off. But your head position, elbow-knee position, makes it difficult. As he fights, we just stay right over him and walk our way into a very nice guard pass. Now, let's look at a minor detail with the legs. Slide up here, his whole thing is to make contact with your leg. Your whole thing is to take your leg high so that when he tries to make contact, he can't. Okay, and you step out. There's two ways you can do this. The classic method is to go high with your leg, but you can also do it just by curling your foot to your butt. So when he goes to make contact, there's nothing for him to do so. Now, as he puts his frames up, he wants to shoot his hips out and recover. That's always what he wants. So what we want in these circumstances, once you're in here, is to get head position. So as he frames, you can always just walk him down and get to a nice clean pass. Now, we've just seen the classic high leg pass. Now let's look at how it combines with the knee cut. These two go together extremely well. When you're going against a tough, resisting opponent, you will almost always have to play between them to get the results that you seek. So, here we are, training partner down. We start off, as always, getting our foot inside our training partner's legs. We understand what the game is here. We want to get to a position where I can deny him the ability to connect to my leg. And it's that which gives us the high leg pass. Your opponent, sometimes they're tough, sometimes they're talented. And sometimes before we can get up, they connect. And you're like, God damn it, can't get my leg up. He's put a blocker behind my leg. That kills the whole idea of me high legging. If I can't move my leg backwards, I'm going to move it forwards. So my hand goes from the outside of the knee to the inside. And then from here, I step out wide. For high leg, I step in. For knee cut, I step out wide. As I push his knee down to the floor, we just come straight in, and we do not go to a hip. We turn out and go here. One to the collar, one to the hip. So when he goes to put me back in guard, it's tough. This thing that gives me enough time to get inside head position, and then I switch my hand from collar. He comes to put us back in guard, back to the knee. And then we walk everything back with a Toreando type pass. Let's have a look at all this again. We start off getting that classic foot position. One in, one out. When I try for the high leg, plus he goes quick and he catches the back of my leg. Can't do it. No problem. I step out. And from here, I knee slide onto my shin. Even as he goes to put me back in guard, I capture. As he goes to put us back in, my head comes down, my hand goes off the neck onto the knee. As we fight for position now, fight to put me back in guard, plus we walk everything around the corner and we complete our pass. Once again, we approach, come in. Initially, we're controlling this fella. Then when we try for high leg, he puts that block behind our leg. No problem. We come through, cut, capture. He goes to put us back, and then from here, my hand goes into the knee, and we get to our pass. Okay? This is a practical, common sense method of combining these two very effective passing methods together. Now, fellas, one of the most important themes of this entire video is the idea that whenever we go to pass an astute opponent's guard, they're going to have certain reactions to our passes which are quite predictable. There's only certain ways our opponent can move in order to retain their guard once you start getting an advantageous angle on them. The number of reactions they can pull out to put you back in guard is actually quite small, and they're usually pretty predictable. You have to learn to take advantage of those reactions, because that's where most of your guard passes are going to come. Remember, the higher you go in the sport, the less you're going to just be performing techniques on people. The more you're going to be trying to integrate a technique, his reaction, and then your reaction to his reaction. And it's going to be your reaction to his reaction that actually gets you the guard pass. Now, one of the most common methods of guard retention in the modern sport of jiu-jitsu involves your opponent coming up to their far hand. Let's demonstrate what this means. Okay, if I'm working against a supine opponent and I move successfully to an angle, if this guy just stays with his shoulders on the mat, it's really easy for me to put my head down and start passing. However, if my opponent builds up to his far hand, he has much less contact with the mat, and as a result, it becomes much more mobile. He could use this to frame, scoop, and then get his legs back between us. Alternatively, he could put his shoulder down on the mat, roll through, and off the roll through, end up putting us back in guard. Okay, so this is a very, very common defensive reaction. It's a good reaction. It's not a bad thing for him to do. However, the second his shoulders come off the mat, his waist is exposed to a body lock. And not just any kind of body lock, the most important kind, a side body lock. What's so special about a side body lock? Am I this way, buddy? Okay, a side body lock puts our body in a position where my head is inside and my body is outside his knees. So when he comes up to a hand in these situations, when he tries to get away from us, you've got so much control of the hips that it's so difficult for him to get away. And your head position can easily return him into situations where you can pin his shoulders down to the mat. Okay? This is one of the strongest guard passing positions in all of jiu-jitsu. Your head inside, your body outside his knees. Remember, for him to be effective from guard position, he's always got to keep you between his knees. So if we ever get situations where you're outside the knees, it's always good. But it's not enough just to be outside the knees, because he can frame, scoop, and put you back in guard. You need to be outside the knees with connection. And the best kind of connection is head inside with a body lock. If my head is outside, it looks good in some ways because you're kind of close to your opponent's back. But if he puts his back down to the ground, I get caught on one side of his body. And from here, he can easily put me back in guard. Okay? So what we want is head inside, body outside. This is the position we want. Nice and tight in here. So when he goes to move around, it's going to be tough. And it's going to be pretty easy for us to pin him down to the shoulder. Okay? So anytime we see someone hit this guard retention movement of coming up to their hand, it's not a bad movement on his part. He's not making a mistake. But it's something we want to learn to take advantage of. So let's have a look at how this would occur in the case of the high leg guard pass. As we come out with a supine opponent in this situation, I'm just going to get a hold of my training partner's foot. I'm going to put my second hand here on my training partner's abdominals and obliques. And I'm just going to pass my training partner's foot out to the side. As I start to threaten the pass, I see my opponent building up to a hand. The second he does so, I just come down to my knees and my hands lock tight around my training partner's waist. Then from here, I use head pressure to return him to an elbow. And as a result, I can go through and capture the wrist. If the wrist is too far away from me, then I'll use this hand to pass it. And then we pin his shoulder down to the mat. Okay? If I feel, coming back up, that the situation is not under control and I cannot get a hold of the hand by any method, then from here, what we're going to do is we're going to step over our training partner's knees and use our knees to pin our training partner's knees. So when he tries to put us back in guard, it's awfully, awfully difficult. And as the movement goes further and further, then we're going to get exposure of that wrist at some point in time, and we'll pin him down to a shoulder. Okay? So let's have a look at this again. Training partner's in front of us. He's in a supine position. We come out, and initially our whole thing is to find a situation where I get an initial angle on my training partner. As I see him go to get up, head goes inside. We come down to our knees, and we get that good side body lock position. As he tries to wrestle from here, it's tough. Now we go through, capture, and pin the shoulder. Okay, this is a very, very common eventuality. All it requires us to do is to get outside the line of our training partner's feet. Do you remember, guys, what we said early on in the video? This idea that we never want the soles of his feet pointing directly at us. We're always looking to guide those feet away from us at all times. Okay, and it's exactly what we're doing here. I just take his foot and I guide it, and I come over the top like so. As he makes a strong, resistant body, I just put my chest over his knee, so that even as he comes up, he gives us the perfect opportunity to enter into a side body lock. Once we're in here, it's so hard for him to prevent that pinning motion. We've spent quite a bit of time so far in this video with the notion of camping, the idea of getting to an advantageous angle and then using body weight to wear out an opponent. It is possible to camp without angle, to do so inside your opponent's guard. What you want to be able to do is shut down their ability to attack you using a particular kind of stance that we'll be looking at. Now, there's many ways to camp inside someone's guard, and some of these are specific to a certain kind of guard. Some of them are very effective, but I do find that many of them take quite a long time to become an expert in. And this video is about how to get good at guard passing in a relatively short time frame. In my experience, the easiest method of camping inside a guard that most people can learn pretty quickly and become very effective within a relatively short time frame is the tripod method. Let's have a look at what's involved here. You will remember from earlier in the video the idea that one of the themes of this video is that as we increase angle, we increase the work rate for our opponent. So here, Placido doesn't have to do much work at all. But as I start to move to an angle, his body has to start curling up to maintain a situation where his feet face my body. Remember, if his feet don't face my body, the advantage is mine. But when his feet face my body, he has to pull his knees up. He's doing hard work now. He has to put frames up and hold me off. As I come up all the way to north-south, now when his feet face my body, he has to do a pretty gymnastic kind of movement just to hold me in guard. So what we see is that as a general rule, the more angle I get on my opponent, the higher his work rate. So when I start putting body weight on him in those extreme positions, he gets tired quickly. Now, that changes when I camp here in front of my opponent in a position where he's not really working that hard. How am I going to control him now? Well, you could do it through body weight. There's certainly methods that work very well that way. But as I said earlier, they tend to take quite a long time to learn. This method doesn't really involve putting weight on your opponent so much as just negating his ability to attack you. So we're going to start off in front of our training partner, and we're going to gather up our training partner's 2 feet, and we're just going to put his feet inside our legs. Now, fellas, if my knees point outwards and Placido starts moving my leg, move my, destabilizes me immediately. If my knees point outwards, it's easy for Placido to off-balance me. So what I want to do is take almost like a knock-kneed kind of stance, like so. And one foot ever so slightly back and one ever so slightly forward. Then I take one hand and I post either on his body, his bicep, or even the floor. This one keeps me balanced. Then I take my head down so you get that kind of tripod action, and my other hand anchors here to my training partner's thigh. So as Placido goes to play guard position from here, it's quite difficult for him. And I switch in response to the evolving situation. I have a post hand for stability, so when he goes to pull my head down, I'm stable. And I have this hand here to control his legs. So if he goes to knock me backwards, connected to him. And we just play this position. Just play around Placido. And you'll see that you're pretty damn stable in this position. There's not a lot he can do. And then ultimately, we're going to be looking to get advantage out of this position. Okay? So understanding this tripod, if our knees point outwards, it's easy for my opponent to off-balance me. If I don't have a hand connection to him and he pulls me, I can be taken forwards out of balance. So what we want to do is negate his legs by turning our knees inwards. I want to make myself stable by posting one hand on body, bicep, or floor. And I want to have some connection to his legs with one hand. As Placido goes to play guard position now, it's quite difficult for him to do so. And at some point, we're going to find advantage in ways that we'll be looking at very soon. This kind of tripod camping position inside your opponent's guard, when he's working from a supine position, can be a really valuable addition to your game. Now, we've looked at a method of camping inside our opponent's guard that's relatively easy for most people to learn in a pretty short time frame. It does a really good job of shutting down most of the movements that my opponent can attack with from a supine guard while we're standing over them. Now let's look at how we're going to use that camp to actually pass people. So now we're not just shutting them down, we're going to shut them down and pass. The way we're going to do this is go into a side body lock. This movement is based on the idea of shoving my opponent's knees past me. Remember, guys, your opponent controls you as long as you're between his knees and feet. Okay, as long as you're between his knees, he controls you. The minute you get outside of your opponent's knees, he no longer controls you. He's 100% defensive, you're 100% offensive. Okay, so anytime we can get outside of his knees, it's money in the bank. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to negate this guy's feet. So we come in, we control his feet, and then from here I'm just going to step over the top like so. If my knees point outwards, we've already seen, you can be destabilized very easily. So we get stability with this weird looking knock-kneed stance. And then we get stability with a hand on our training partner's upper body. So when he goes to pull us down, it won't be easy. Then from here in one motion, I'm going to cup his knees and I'm going to shut them. How do I do this? I just move my hips back and I move a little bit to the side and I take his knee past my center line. Even when Placido makes his legs strong and resistant, you're going to be pretty surprised. Every time he goes to put me in, say, for example, Ashirami, he gives me what I want. Then I just put my head down, I go into this tripod position. From tripod, remember when we talked about scissor hands? Our hands scissor around the waist. So wherever he goes, you're going to get your hands connected. Once your hands connect, it's so hard for this guy to prevent you from passing in a number of different directions. You can pass to the side. You can switch your head and step over his legs. You can step over into mount. If he turns his back from here, he'll give you the rear mount. Either way, we're happy. Okay, so it's just a great scoring position. Let's have a look at this from another angle. I approach my training partner, and we're looking always from here to go in and control his feet. I step over the top and bring my knees in close. I take my position. He goes to off-balance me from here, and then from this position, I just shut everything on by him. Then I take the tripod position. As he goes to work, he's always going to expose himself to that body lock. Once the body lock's in place, then there's 1,000 ways for us to start passing. Let's have a look at it from another angle. We approach our training partner, and from here, we step in over the top. There's our initial position, it's like so. As he goes to work here, it's quite difficult for him. Now we find the ability to shut the knees on by. When he goes to play, I can connect my hands very easily now. And as a result, we get into perfect scoring positions. So this is just a really realistic way to control your opponent's legs and then use that tripod position to get your hands connected when you're outside of his knees. Now let's take that same camping position that we just looked at, modify it to a 1-in, 1-out position, and then show how we can pass into a side body lock. So as before, we approach our opponent. We start always by nullifying our training partner's feet. We go over the top and we get that stance that we just talked about. Now I'm going to take one of my legs and I'm going to pommel it over the top. I do that by turning my knee inwards. Then when I curl my foot up to my buttocks, I now have 1-in, 1-out. From the 1-in, 1-out position, I high leg. As I high leg, Placido tries to catch me, he'll never do it. We pass the legs to the side, we drop into our tripod position. So as Placido goes to scramble the position, it's so difficult. And now we're in the perfect position to bring him down to his shoulder and get into our favorite passes. So, once again, approaching our training partner, he's in a supine position. We do a good job of controlling our training partner's feet. When we first step over, we get to our initial camping position just like so. From here, I'm going to pommel my foot to the inside. Now I just take my leg and I high leg and I pass his leg through and I find myself now in that same tripod we just talked about earlier. As he tries to work from here, you've got that side body lock. It's going to be really easy for you now to get into your favorite passing positions and get your scores. From another angle, we approach, nullify our training partner's feet, and then from here, we step in over the top. I take my camping position, then I just step over. From here, I go in a high leg. From high leg, head to the inside, body to the outside. It's the classic side body lock position. If we step over our training partner's legs from here, increasing pressure makes it easy for us to control the situation into a nice pass.